Our lead Loadmaster progressive reloading press is currently set up to load 357 Magnum ammunition. In this particular video, we're going to see just how quick and easy it is to change calibers on the lead Loadmaster 5-station progressive reloading press without the case feeder and with the same primer size. The first thing we're going to do today is going to be to lower the handle, raise the ram, so that we can get at the chain to disconnect the connector. So now that we've got some slack in the chain, we're just going to align the chain with the crack on the disconnector. We're going to pull that down sharply, remove it from the chain, put it in the completed cartridge bin, and we're then going to also remove the spring from the chain as well. Now, looking from the top, we can see better the procedure that we're going to follow to remove the powder measure. We're going to lift the chain out of the guide, and we're then going to just shake the powder measure slightly while we loosen the knurled knob, which will allow us to lift the powder measure free from the charging and case mouth expansion station. Next, we're going to loosen the decapper. This is a Lee universal decapping die, so that we can use this in our next setup as well. We put that in the completed cartridge bin, loosen the lock nut for the shell plate, rotate it slightly while pushing up, and that's going to come right out. We can then take our turret that we have with dies set up already for 9mm, we can drop that into place and then tighten the lock nut. Now out comes our universal decapping die once again. We're going to put that in station number 1. And we're just going to preserve the last setting. Usually that's going to work fine for us. Finger tighten the lock ring, which has an O-ring, which keeps that steadied in place. Wow, our dies are already installed. Let's grab our powder measure and insert that into the charging and case mouth expansion station in station number 3. Tighten the knurled knob down. We can then put our chain through the guide in the subplate, and we're ready to reattach the spring and connector. So here what we want to do with the ram in the lowered position is put our spring back on by feeding the chain through the spring, and we're going to apply slight pressure there, raise the ram, and then put the connector on one ball up from the slight spring compression setting. And it looks like we have slight compression of the spring. It's not all the way compressed, and we have positive chain tension when the lever is pushed forward. So that's perfect. And next we need to swap out our shell plates. So what we're going to do is take this knurled nut here, loosen that, make sure that we've retained the O-ring. We're going to take off the ejector plate, and then we're going to just gently lift the shell plate up and off. We've got our 9mm shell plate here. We're going to tuck that under the primer arm, and then we're going to need to just kind of rotate this slightly while we push in and out on the indexing rod, and that's going to snap right down into position. Okay, let's get our ejector plate back on, tighten the knurled knob. Now, one last thing I'm going to do here while we're looking at this part of the setup is to push in slightly on all of the case retention arms, and what that is going to do is going to allow the case to push those out to the proper position when we go to load. And the rotation of the shell plate will also push those out. We'll just do a final snug on that, check that to make sure that's secure, and we're looking good there. Well, in just a couple of minutes we've changed over from one pistol caliber to another on the lead Loadmaster progressive reloading press. Of course, here we're not using the case feed system, which is a common configuration either to use it or not, and we're also using the same primer size. In fact, we didn't even have to empty primers. So the next steps would be to, when we're actually ready to load, work up our powder load and confirm that powder load, and then to run a test round through to validate the overall configuration of the press. Make sure our crimp is correct, make sure our seating depth is correct, make sure that priming is functioning properly, that kind of thing. Well, I hope that you've learned something by watching this video, and I hope that you'll also stay tuned on ultimatereloader.com as we look at different aspects of reloading both of this press and other presses. Thank you very much.